Today we are putting the garden to bed, and don't judge how many peppers and tomatoes are left on the plants. When you're a small business owner, sometimes the garden goes on the wayside in the fall when you are prepping for the holidays. So in this episode, we are going to talk how you can clean up your garden. It's always the kind of the saddest time of year, but also the most important because you're prepping it really for next spring for the joy of getting to plant your garden again. So here are a few tips I have when you are cleaning up the garden. The first thing to do in the vegetable patch is to clean up all of the dead plants that have since frozen and any of the fruit that's lying in the pathways, because you want to avoid getting any kind of volunteer plants coming up next spring. Move it. So I have one bed down. It was an annual raised bed. So I had sweet peppers and basil, a row of basil in this. So it was pretty straightforward. It just all had to come out. A couple things to remember. One is when you are removing your annuals from your raised bed, from your garden, you want to make sure you're shaking any of your native soil, your loose, rich garden soil off back into the bed, because you don't want to just needlessly, because with raised beds especially, you don't want your soil to just gradually work its way out of your garden, which leads me to my next point. You'll notice I kind of spread the mulch and some of the leaves falling from this ash tree behind me onto this bed, because as much as I try to remove some of the leaf debris that dropped from my actual plants, my vegetables growing in the bed, because you don't want pests and disease to carry over in the next spring, you do want some of that organic matter, a layer there to prevent soil erosion from blowing away. I'm in a very windy part of the world, and so it's really important for me that I leave this layer to prevent moisture loss from the soil and just soil loss that as it blows away as dust over the winter. We've had some pretty droughty winters in my life here, and so that's just one way I prevent that from happening. And then next spring, what I'll do is I'll turn some of this organic matter back over. I'll remove some of it because it's a lot of mulch there. And then I'll also at that time determine whether I need to add some compost in, some new topsoil, just to keep my raised bed soil healthy, well drained, with good nutrients available for my plants. Anywho, all right, on to the next. I just want to pause and take a moment to say I've never pulled up tomatoes that look like this. They usually have a nice root system, and this is just a testament to how wet and soggy our gardening season was this year. We've had more rain in this part of the world than we have in my lifetime and actually a century, and tomatoes just stayed soggy. Our clay soils do not drain well, even in a raised bed. And so, yes, it was a bit of a struggle the gardening year, but we try and we try and we try again. So speaking of roots, you know how we always say to plant your tomatoes deep because they actually form better root systems? Well, in a place where their roots hadn't rotted, because there's a tree setting behind that bed and it always uses water faster there, you can actually see this section right here is where I greenhouse grew it. And you can see those roots from the main root ball. This part of the stem right here, on the other hand, those are all new roots that formed, adventitious roots from the stem of the tomato. Yes, I am a root nerd, but roots tell you a lot about the life of your plant. So I've got my tomato beds cleaned out. I've got one more annual bed to clean up. The one thing I was going to tell you guys is I'm so clearly not saving seeds as I'm going here in my vegetable patch. Here's why. When you save seeds from a given garden year, not only are you not sure of the quality of the seeds you're saving, like whether they've got disease issues going on with them, that kind of thing, you're also not sure of the viability, whether your seeds are going to grow. And I am a big stickler on germination rate. I like it to be a fine science because I grow so extensively for so many people. The other thing is when you've got your tomatoes, your peppers in the same garden, they're all solanaceous crops, they have a tendency to cross-pollinate. When you have cross-pollination, there is a higher chance that you're going to end up with something growing next year from the seeds you save that you have no idea what you're growing because of the cross-pollination. The genetics just aren't as high quality. So I like the best quality because why not? When we have access to the best quality seeds, go for it, right? So if seed saving is your thing, by golly, save those seeds. But for me and my vegetable patch, this is just not one area that I like to stray far from the traditional. Now, the prairie is another thing entirely because you know that I'm collecting seeds there for my regionally native perennial program. But in the vegetable patch, it's just not my thing. So, those are the reasons. All right, on to the next bed. All right, so I've got my main vegetable beds done. I still have my herb bed to do some tending with, and I've got to clean up my pathways. But first, I'm going to put away all of my supports, my cages, because some of my fold-up cages I'm very particular about, and leaving them out over the winter causes them to rust, and so I want to protect those tools. They're basically a tool. They basically are. Yeah, I would call them a tool. Anyways, so one last thing I was going to mention about the cucurbits, which would be your squash, your watermelons, your cantaloupe, your cucumbers, obviously. Those are all really important because of squash bugs to make sure you clean up all the leaf debris as much as possible because the insects, the squash bugs, overwinter in the leaf debris. So it's really important to do that. And then in addition, I also make sure I rotate that crop every year. It is so important to rotate that crop. All right. I'm going to work on the herb bed. So this part I'm actually going to demo because this is my perennial, well, I put some annuals in here, some biennials, but this is mainly my perennial herb bed, my culinary herb bed. I've got common thyme here in the front. I've got some rosemary, which some years makes it, some years doesn't. I've got onion chives in here. I've got Italian parsley. I've got lavender. I think that's pretty much the bulk of what I've got because they, like, as you can see about this thyme, it takes up its space. So what I do in the fall, as with a lot of my kind of semi-evergreen plants that are in the mint family, like thyme and lavender, I actually give these a pretty hard prune so that they don't collect leaves and moisture around the crown of the plant over the winter. I've got a lavender hedge on the backside that is newly planted. I only had 2 plants that didn't actually make it because it was so wet this year. I mean, I didn't water my garden hardly at all. I think twice this year. And I still had issues with root decay because of our clay soils here in Kansas. But I'm going to give all of those a hard prune too, and I'm going to pull out any dead that I see while I'm at it. It's just an important thing to do to make sure you keep your plants compact. And you can also dry your thyme or dry any of these herbs in the process. I know I can't eat this much thyme. I probably should sell it, but that's a whole nother gambit. But yeah, I'm just going to go at it. You can hand prune, but I'm not about that. I don't have time for that. So I'm going to take a hedge clippers to this now. One last thing before I start hacking away at these herbs, it's important to leave at least 2 to 3 inches of visibly live growth. With thyme, you know, it's pretty tough, and oregano too, and mint. But with lavender, for sure, you want to make sure you leave that amount of live growth. I'm pretty sure I have another Unearth Horticulture on pruning lavender, but also I do have a Substack article on preserving herbs in the fall. If you want to go take a look at that, I'm going to drop the link below. All right, let's go. I have to say tending herbs is by far my favorite form of culinary gardening because it just brings so much spice to life, quite literally. I am going to go ahead and leave my parsley and my onion chives in here, even though I know they're going to die off, and I'm going to have that to pull out later. They're very cold hardy, and they can take freezes, at least before we hit like a polar plunge later. I've had this flat Italian parsley last until mid-January before, and there's quite simply nothing like fresh parsley in recipes, and so it is going to stay here for as long as possible. But now I got to go trim that lavender hedge on the back side. So I got my lavender hedge pruned. One last thing I was going to say about lavender pruning. It is important to let it kind of go into its like dormancy, kind of gray coloration before you do start to prune it, because you don't want it to be so warm outside still that it's going to reflush some new growth after you prune and then freeze that off. That's really unhealthy for the plant. So you want it to kind of be in its state of dormancy before you do this pruning process in the fall. But anywho, this is what my gardening process looks like. I know that it's not perfect, but gardening is by no means a perfect hobby. It's really important that you understand that gardening looks different for everybody because everybody's at a different stage in the learning process of how to do it. And that's the beauty of gardening. It is a never-ending, untapped hobby that you can learn from. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Unearth Horticulture. If you have any questions, drop them below. And until next time, you've been watching Unearth Horticulture.